There was a city in ancient days that sat on a large hill between two rivers. This hill was so grand that many, unfamiliar with the high peaks of the east, considered it a mountain. The city was like those of its time, but taken to a scale that had never been seen before on the face of the earth. Its walls stood high like the great trees of the north and as wide as the rivers of the south. The outsides of the walls were made of bronze a foot thick. In it were carved scenes depicting the history of the great city. There were lion hunts undertaken by great kings, wars fought long ago for the land, and, largest and grandest of all, the scenes flanking the main gate. On the right, it showed a shepherd with his flock discovering Siprúg, the land upon which the city was built. On the left, it showed the shepherd, now an older man, sitting on a throne made of gold, ruling as Siprúg, the first king of the great city. The city's greatness did not stop at its walls. It was so vast that it would take a messenger 3 days to travel from end to end. In the very center, at the highest point, was the palace of the king. It was surrounded on 3 sides by a lake with colorful fish, gifts from the kings of the east. The palace itself was a sight beyond measure. Its gold and bronze exterior shone like the sun high in the heavens. It stood 5 stories tall and was so large that it took 250 servants to maintain it. In the center of the highest point of the palace sat the throne room. It was lined with marble busts of all the kings of the past, each a gift from the kings of the west. But Siprúg had a statue larger than life standing behind the throne to forever watch the actions of his heirs. People from distant lands came to see and live within its walls. There is an older tale of slaves from the far-flung Spice Islands rowing across the sea through a typhoon to see the city they had heard their masters speak of. The city's name was Siprúg. Kilu, the great conqueror, did not live in Siprúg. Kilu lived in Siprúg, outside the walls. Every morning he woke up to the light shining from the great palace through his window into his eyes. He lived a humble life. He lived in the same house, worked the same land, and sowed the same crop, going as far back as his family law goes. It was predictable, but he didn't seem to mind. On a morning like any other, he set out to work the fields when he saw something emerge from the tree line on the edge of the farm. He put his hand to his brow and squinted his eyes. It was a man. He half went back to work and half kept an eye on him. Then the man came close enough to take a detailed view of it. He had a large walking stick, and he wore a brown cloak with green-stained edges, with a rope tied at his waist. Just below the rope hung the end of his large grey beard, its edges seemingly blackened by fire. He also wore a wide-brimmed hat pulled down low over his face. But what Kilu noticed most of all was his feet, or rather what they were doing. He was dragging his feet up, turning the soil in which he had sown the day before. Kilu shouted out, "What are you doing to my field? I don't mind the occasional wanderer, but must you undo all our hard work by dragging your feet?" The man returned with, "I'm sorry, young man, but I am seeking Siprúg, the great city." "Yes, you and the rest of the world, but why do you walk upon my fields? Do you think yourself too good to walk on the main road?" interrupted Kilu. The man, now annoyed, said, "Didn't your parents teach you to respect your elders? I am blind, and I use the light of the city to guide my way. And as for my feet, I find it safer to drag them. I apologize for any inconvenience caused by doing so, but don't you believe the safety of a vulnerable old man is more important than a couple of crops?" Kilu felt a bit embarrassed for yelling at an old, blind man. He couldn't find his words, but he was eventually able to spit out, "Oh, I see. You seem like you've been on the road for a while. Come with me into my house for some food and drink." The old man said with a smile, "I think I'd like that very much." They entered Kilu's family home. His mother and sisters were around spinning wool. Kilu turned to the old man and opened his mouth as if to say something, then closed it. Then he began again. "I'm sorry, I was about to introduce you, but I realized I never got your name." The man replied, "Ah, of course, I am Wurasta at your service," he said, addressing all those in the room. Then his youngest sister said with a chuckle, "At your service? What service can a blind, dirty old man give us?" She had evidently noticed his eyes were cloudy. Kilu turned to her with a nasty look on his face, and she shrank in her seat. "It seems all the people of your house are as rude as you, young man," snorted Urasta. "No, we're not, at least not me. Hello there, I'm Amaki. I see that you've met my son Kilu." Urasta smiled and said, now looking at where her voice came from, "Yes, I have, and what an honorable son you have raised. He has agreed to help me, a complete stranger, up and into the great city." Gave him a look of total bewilderment. Amaki held in a laugh and told them, "It seems you two have a lot to talk about. Kilu, why don't you lead him to the table? I'll bring the beer and corn." "That sounds lovely, Amaki." They sat down at the table and she set down a large pot of beer with 2 straws sticking out. Then she gave them each a cob of corn. Urasta reached out for his beer and was surprised to find 1 large pot instead of 2 mugs for Kilu and himself. Urasta was puzzled and asked, "I can't imagine that all this beer is for me." "Of course not," said Kilu. "What would you think? Didn't you feel our straws?" Urasta groped for the straw and found it. "Oh, I'm sorry. Where I'm from, we each get a mug to drink out of." "A mug? That's rather queer. How then do you share a drink? A mug isn't much to share." "We share the action of drinking, not the actual drink, and this may come to an even greater surprise, but we usually drink wine, not beer." Kilu looked at him with a confused and inquisitive look and asked, "Where do you come from again?" "The West, far West, in a land known for its grapes," replied Urasta. Kilu looked him up and down, trying to decide if he believed him. Then he asked, "I'm sorry, but I find it hard to believe that you've travelled all the way from where you said to keep a Sugal, given your age and condition. I had many people like you help guide me, and many more who wanted to betray me. Now tell me, Kilu, which one are you?" Kilu replied sternly, "Neither. I have no business with you beyond my present hospitality. You're surely out of luck. It seems that you've come upon the only person who has no desire to enter the city. I can see its light rudely waking me up every morning, and that's enough for me. So go bother someone else. I'm even willing to help you with that." Urasta blew air sharply out of his nose, then said, "You say this with such certainty, but you do not know my reason for going to the city. Perhaps that'll change your Kilu interrupted. "I know your reason. It's one of the same reasons as everyone else. Do you want to see the walls? Or perhaps you want to see all the artifacts from ancient wars? Or maybe, if you're feeling really adventurous, you'll buy fruit from one of the hundreds of stands. The same fruit, mind you, is found abundantly in the trees you emerged from." Urasta stood up and slammed his fists on the table. "I am tired of your arrogant presumptions and your rude interruptions. Lead me to the nearest house so I may find another guide to the king." Kilu sat, dumbfounded and slack-jawed. "The king," he muttered. "You came to see the king? Not just to see, but to speak. I have been sent to help him," Urasta said, softening his tone. Kilu looked him up and down again, wondering what kernel of truth his lie came from. "Who sent you?" he asked. "Oh, so now you're interested," Urasta replied. "Yes, now, who sent you?" he said again. "You forget your manners. I'm your guest. You should treat me with honor." "Fine," he said, with shortening patience. "Will you please tell me who sent you?" Aurustus smiled and said, "No, you may not, but I appreciate your newfound politeness." Kilu had stopped looking for the kernel of truth and decided that it was all a lie from the core. "My offer still stands. You can come with me to aid the king if you so wish." Kilu was now at the end of his patience and snapped, saying, "And why would I come with you?" "You ask the wrong question, Kilu. You should be asking, why not?" Kilu was silent. He had no more words for him, at least none that he felt would help this conversation. Aurasta, noticing the silence, said, "I can see we're done for this moment. We'll discuss this in the morning." "The morning?" exclaimed Kilu. "What makes you think we'll be seeing each other in the morning?" "Because I'll be staying the night here. Now, do not even try to protest. I can tell your mother is a kind woman with a love for guests. It would be no use arguing against her." Kilu now felt utterly defeated. "Fine, I'll show you to the barn and you can stay there." Aurasta raised an eyebrow. "Fine, I'll show you to my room." As night fell, they shared dinner and were off to bed, and Aurasta had one final thing to say. "I'm expecting a decision in the morning, so be prepared. And remember, your mother already believes that you're coming with me, so you'd best not disappoint her. Good night." That night, Kilu had a dream like no other. He saw a forest with trees so tall you could not see the top of their trunks, and in their midst was a great tree. He felt a peace like he was safe, but then he heard a great cracking sound. Then he saw the great tree falling, and the branches came falling down. Each was set ablaze, and each was the size of any of the other trees. When they fell, they took smaller trees with them. He could not stand the sight. He turned around to escape the devastating view. But he saw another tragedy: rivers and lakes overflowing, the water speeding, rising to him. He wanted to flee, but there was nowhere to go. He could only run in front to be crushed by the falling trees, or behind to the rising sea. The terror grew in his heart. He could not believe it. He froze. Nothing he could do would save him. He was doomed. Then he saw a harsh light. Then he opened his eyes, and the light he had seen was the light of the palace of the king in Siprúg. He had never been happier for the rude awakening than he was that morning. Eurystus saw that he was awake and told him that he had prepared breakfast. He got up and went to the table. When he was situated, Eurystus asked him, "Have you made up your mind yet?" He was still a bit shaken from his dream, so he said, "Can you give me some more time to think? I've just woken up." "I've given you time enough," Eurystus shouted as he got up to leave. "Goodbye." "No, wait, I'll come with you," Kilu said quickly. He couldn't believe his words. He had been so vehemently opposed before. "A small journey wouldn't do me too much harm, I suppose. After all, I've got no good reason not to. I shouldn't miss too much work." "I'm glad you made the right choice," Aurustus said, with his face turned away with a grin. "Pack your things. Say your goodbyes. We'll be leaving as soon as you are able." "Got it," Kilu replied. Kilu did as he said, but he only said goodbye to those in the house. To the men of his family already working outside, he figured his mother would fill them in later. He led Aurustus to the path that went from his farm to the road that joined with the main road that led to the main gate of Siprúg. They didn't speak for half a mile or so. Then suddenly Kilu said, "You never told me what the king needed help with." Aurustus said in a low voice, "Is there anyone around us?" "No," said Kilu, half confused. "Good," Aurustus said with a sigh of relief. "I don't want to stir up talk. You see, the king is sick." "Sick?" asked Kilu. "So you're a doctor then?" Urasta chuckled. In a way, yes, but the king's sickness is affecting more than his body. You see, he is sick with hatred. Hatred? Really? Kilu said in a mocking tone. This is no laughing matter, Urasta said sternly. Hatred is the mother of all diseases. It rots both body and soul and spreads quicker than any virus. Worst of all, it speaks, it convinces all those affected that they are better off with it. Kilu looked off to his side, now feeling foolish for taking such a serious matter lightly, then finally asked, So how do we cure it? Not we, but I. Remember, you are the guide. It would be best that you remember your place, Urasta said authoritatively. They walked another mile or so when Urasta began to hum, then whistle. Kilu looked at him curiously. What song is that? You mean to tell me you don't know the famous tune? Urasta said, a bit shocked. No, that is why I asked you. Urasta raised an eyebrow. I'll ignore that rude comment of yours and graciously educate you. Then he began to sing. When the stars came down and the sea came up, it seemed mankind was out of luck. Then came a man good from the core. It was our Saviour, O Saviour, O Saviour. With his hands made of iron, O Saviour, and feet a burning fire. He kept the stars in their place by using great trees as a brace. He dried the land so water could never escape the banks of great rivers, O Saviour, with his hands made of iron, O Saviour, and feet a burning fire. On that day he saved us all, every nation big and small, and every day we give our thanks. On him our hope we will bank. Kilu seemed to resonate with some of the verses. He began to speak to himself. Great trees, rising seas. Urasta grinned, but Kilu was too bothered to notice. Soon after, they reached the peak of a hill. There, said Kilu, there's the main road leading to Siprúg, and down at its end is the main gate. Urasta replied snarkily, Oh yes, thank you for pointing the road out for me, and the main gate too. Its beauty is surely a sight to behold. Have you forgotten my blindness, or is this intended to mock me? Kilu had not realized what he had said, so he replied, I did not mean to offend. I only wanted to update you on the progress of our journey. Urasta relented. It is fine, I forgive you. It would be best that we did not bicker. It'll make the journey feel 12 times longer than it is, or worse, our small quarrels could turn to resentment and then into hatred. I can no longer feel the sun on my face. I reckon that it is now high above us, and it is noon. No. Come, let us have our lunch on this hill. Perhaps we can have a pleasant conversation for once. I am also anxious to see what food you have packed.